Wondering what life is really like on Canada's wild and crazy West Coast? This podcast is all about the people, the places, and Vancouver Island time. Together, we'll explore this island paradise, a combination of ocean, city, and country living. We'll meet the fabulous locals, such as the Fudge Fairy and the Chicken Lady, who have chosen Victoria and Vancouver Island as their home. And we'll learn what makes this place unique and special to those who live here. And now, your host of Vancouver Island Time, Jane Johnston.
Hello, everybody. It's Jane Johnston with Vancouver Island Time. I'm the host from the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun, and I'm here today with Lori Frank. Lori Frank owns a company called Lori Frank Mediation, and we're going to be highlighting the Highlands area, which is north and west of downtown Victoria. We're about 15 minutes from downtown. And I met Lori a number of years ago, and she moved from downtown to the Highlands, and I thought she was crazy, but I think you made a wise decision. So why don't you tell us what factored into that decision? And you have, a young family, so tell us how that worked for you. You had a big sense of community where you were, and now you're in kind of a remote area. So tell us what brought you here.
We had always thought about living sort of in the country. I grew up in the country in Ontario. My husband, although he grew up in Burnaby, he would spend his summers up in Smithers with his mom in a remote, outside of town kind of area. So we just always had hoped at some point we would move into that kind of a more rural setting. And it's worked out beautifully.
Are you on city water here?
No, we're not on city water. We've got a well, and we've got our own septic bed and all of those kinds of things. So no city utilities out here.
So I brought that up because a lot of people are concerned about that with the quality and quantity of water outside the city. How do you find it?
We've never had a problem. We had the water tested regularly, and it's always been fine. And even in the really bad droughts that we sometimes get in the summer, the well is always at a very high level. And we know that because at one point the well, we had to replace something in it. So we actually had to open it all up and take a look. And we were worried that particular summer because it was the first summer where it'd been so dry, and we were worried the well would run dry, but there's tons of water in it. So.
Yeah, my mom moved to the country in Ontario, and she ran out of water. And where we used to live in Metchosin, actually, everybody ran out of water, but we just happened to have a really good well. So, and after we sold our house, I remember the buyers called us up after the power went out, and they're like, "So where's the line to the city?" And I'm like, "There is no."
And there is no line.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's one of those things. Sometimes you can get E. coli in the water. That seems to be the biggest problem. But if you test it once a year is recommended. So, and is it easy to get it tested?
Yep, it's very easy. You can just drop it off at a lab, and they'll test it, and it's pretty quick and easy.
Yeah, there's a little kit that you can use to test it. And so the other thing is septic. So living out here, I actually just sold a house where they replaced the septic today. They took possession, which was really exciting. And so they were asking me about care for a septic tank. I've told people there's a course called Septic Savvy with the CRD. But have you found any difference really for you?
No difference in the way that we use the house or anything like that. We don't worry too much about it. We are careful not to put certain things down the sink, and we don't use bleach or those kinds of things. But we've had the septic cleaned out once since we've moved here so far, and he said it was looking great, and as good as a septic can look.
That's a pretty crappy job.
It really is. Yeah. Not what I would want.
I find, so really it costs about $500 to clean it out, right? And it's about once every 5 years. So the cost is very cheap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's pretty low maintenance. We're not too worried about it. Yeah.
So, So you live on a large lot. It's a great party place, actually. I'm just wondering, what's it like in terms of convenience? So explain sort of where you are relative to downtown and also the West Shore where all the big box stores are and stuff.
We can get downtown during the day, not during rush hour, but during the daytime, we can be downtown in about 20 minutes, 25 tops. But in terms of other amenities, grocery store and all of that, we're less than 10 minutes from Costco and Millstream Village and that whole area. So it's super easy to get everything. It does feel like we're out in the middle of nowhere here, but we're really not. We're maybe 5 minutes from Bear Mountain and yeah.
I found for myself, like I had a listing on Stewart Mountain, which is just north of, like halfway between here and Bear Mountain. And everyone's like, it's in the Highlands. That's so far. But really, every time I left that house, I was just like, seriously, 10 minutes. That was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're really close to everything. It's quick to get on the highway, although we take back roads into town for the most part because it helps.
Like Monroe?
Yeah, Munn Road or Rosterance Road, which is not everybody's cup of tea. It's a narrow, windy road, but we drive it all the time, and now we're just used to it. Yeah.
I was telling somebody the other day as I was driving around, like, thank goodness for real estate because I've learned all the little secret places to go around. And it really isn't that far. I mean, I come from Toronto. You're from near Hamilton, right?
No, north of Toronto.
Oh, north of Toronto, right. So just like I grew up taking an hour and a half trip just to go to work every day.
Yeah, same. In Ontario, driving half an hour just to get to the grocery store from where we were, that was nothing. It took us an hour on the school bus. The school wasn't an hour away, but, so we're just used to driving. It's not a big deal for us to have to drive 20 minutes to get somewhere. I think people who've always lived in a city feel like that's pretty far. But if you think about how far you get in 20 minutes out here as opposed to driving 20 minutes in town, you're getting way further in that amount of time.
I always think it's funny when people say, hey, why don't you come and visit us instead of us coming to visit you because you're so far away.
Yeah, that's why we have good parties. It brings people out here.
So speaking of school, where do your kids go to school and how do they get there, and is it easy for them? And what about, kids in the area? What about the social life for children in the Highlands?
Yeah, we were a little worried about that when we first moved out because at the time our boys were about 9 and 10 years old. And, we knew everybody in our little neighborhood. We used to live in Fernwood, and they had lots of friends that they could just walk to their house. But it turns out there were 2 kids that lived just down the road, like literally a minute walk away, and they were the same age as our kids, and so they've been good friends ever since. There's quite a few kids in the neighborhood, and we see them out with their dogs walking and that kind of thing. So that was great. For school, because we work in town and we drive in because the boys go to school in town as well. We didn't want to move them out of the school that they were in already, and so we all just drive in the morning. Yeah, we actually use the time wisely. We listen to books, audiobooks. Tobin just finished listening to the Harry Potter series while they drive, or, we listen to podcasts or whatever. We use the time in the car.
That's a great idea. My kids make me listen to the radio, which plays the same songs over and over again. It's incessant. It drives me crazy. Okay, what about for recreation? What do you guys do?
We just walk out the front door. There are so many trails in this area. And my kids have really been getting into trail building. So we've actually cleared, they have, not me. I just take advantage of their work. But they'll go out for long periods of time and build new trails. And my younger one is really into mountain biking, so it's perfect for him. And we walk almost every day, and there's a beautiful pond nearby, and we go walk around that. So, yeah. So we are just about a minute walk away from my house, And this is a pond. It's on private property, but the people who own it don't mind if the locals come and stroll around it. So it's not uncommon in the evening if we come up here with the dog for a walk to find other people out with their dogs as well. They've really developed it beautifully. There's a path all the way around the whole pond, and it's just it's so neat to see it in all the different seasons. Yeah, so we love coming up here. In the summer up here, the weather is usually 2 or 3 degrees warmer than in Victoria or in Langford even. And then in the winter, because of our elevation, it's usually 2 or 3 degrees colder. And so if it's raining in Langford, it could be snowing here. And we usually get every winter so far about 2 or 3 days where it snows to the point where we get a snow day, which we love. It's cozy and we stay home from work, and then, you know, because of our wonderful climate out here, it melts a couple days later and we're all good to go again. But it's just this nice little, it's so beautiful out here when the snow comes down. So the kids have come up with the name Froggle Rock for this. If you've ever watched Fraggle Rock, you'll know what we're talking about. When we first moved here, there was one lone frog on this rock. And over time, people in the community have added more and more frogs to it. So there's, I don't know, about, all different kinds of frogs. So we got stuffies and little bendy frogs, and then just the little knick-knacky frogs. And this black one over here is the one that we brought home from Mexico this past winter and put on the rock. So I love it because I don't know who put these frogs here. I don't know why it even started. But I know when people think about moving out into a rural area, they're worried that they won't have community. And to me, this is community. This is like this neat little thing that just the people in our area know about. And it's neat to come up here and there's a new frog or something's changed. And yeah, it's just a neat little community thing.
Yeah, you can go to the Gallon Todd Trail right across Millstream, and you can hike up all the way over actually to Finlayson and Mount Finlayson, and you can see the Malahat on the other side. And then you can also go to Thetis Lake Park, which is closer to Langford area. And then I'm trying to think, what is there's a lake road around here. What's that called? There's quite a nice lake anyway around here as well.
Mary Lake Sanctuary. Yeah. That's a fairly new thing for the area, and I have yet to get out for one of their Sunday walks. But yeah, there's lots of places around here. Just last weekend we hiked up Stewart Mountain, and down the road from us, a 5-minute drive is Lone Tree Hill, and you can see all the way out to the ocean. It's beautiful.
I was known as the outside mom when my kids were little, so we just went hiking all the time. What about like proximity up island and central Saanich and stuff like that? Do you find it easy to get up there for people who are working up in the peninsula?
Yeah, because we take the back road and it takes you right out to West Saanich Road. So that's nice and easy. That's how we go to the ferry. And then up island, it's kind of nice where we are because we are generally past the traffic where we can get on the highway. And if the highway is really bad, we've got another back road that we can take that comes out at, what's the
Prospect Lake?
No, Goldstream. It comes out at Goldstream Park.
Oh, the other way.
Yeah, the other way. And then we can head right up the island there. So, yeah.
Yeah, it actually goes right through the park. Okay, I have one more question for you about recreation centers and stuff like that. So people who want organized recreation, where do you guys access that? It'll be a question people will be interested in.
Yeah, actually, it's probably about a 10-15 minute drive from here is the newer recreation center in Langford, the Y and where the bowling alley is and the football field and all of that, that whole rec center area is close by. And then just sort of in the other direction, again, about a 15-minute drive is Juan de Rec Center.
Right. It's now West Shore Rec.
Oh, yes, it is.
I go there for skating and swimming all the time. Okay. And then because you're out in the country, and this is an issue all over Vancouver Island, it's not just related to being in the country, but what about secondary heating sources? Because you do live in the outback. So what is your secondary heat source and how accessible is it? And is it reliable when the power goes out in this, in the winter?
We actually had a wood stove and we've taken it out. So that was our backup. So we actually don't have a backup right now. We've just got electric heat right now. And every winter we debate a heat pump. And then in the summer we debate one because it can get pretty warm out here. But I think where we're at right now is we're just going to be getting a... No. Oh, the words escape me. No, just more as a backup for when the power goes out.
Oh, a generator?
Yeah, a generator. Yeah. So
I think there used to be one in your garage.
there's a hookup for one. Yeah. Yeah. We haven't just haven't purchased one yet, but it's not been an issue. We this winter the hydro went out. And we walked down to our neighbor's house who have a wood stove, and we ordered in pizza, and we sat and had pizza with them and drank wine. And by the time we were done, the hydro came back on. So
might as well have fun while the power's out. We have a wood stove, but we've considered getting a propane one. Yeah, because the propane, you can get quite a large tank, and then it's so easy to turn it on and off, and it's so fast. It's a very fast way of heating up the house. Okay. And I'm just wondering, so what about the kids? Do they miss living downtown at all, or do they love it up here as well, as much as you guys?
they love it. Yeah, no, they really enjoy living out here. A lot of their friends are in town, but they're at an age now where we can drop them off at the Home Depot, and our oldest has figured out how to take the bus into town, which is cool, and how to bus back home. So he'll go in and have sleepovers and that kind of thing, or we'll drive him in, he'll bus back out. So it's actually been quite nice for their independence. They've figured out how to get around on their own. When kids are motivated, they'll figure those things out. They've even, found trails that bike over to Millstream Village. So they'll bike over, they'll take their lock, they'll go to A&W, and then they bike home.
What about in terms of restaurants for you guys? Where do you like to eat?
Oh, well, there's lots in Langford. We like one of the Thai places. There's an Indian place in Langford that we like.
That's Sabai Thai and turmeric?
Yes, that is. And, when we get pizza, they deliver out here. So that's kind of nice.
Do you ever go to 900 Degrees?
We do. That is very good pizza. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, there's lots to choose from out here.
Okay. Good. All right. So we're going to be back. Lori's going to talk about Lori Frank Mediation. So this is a new career for her, and she's doing very well at it. So we want to know how she is establishing her business and getting her clients, and what is her ideal client. So stay tuned. I'm Jane Johnston with Vancouver Island Time. We'll talk to you soon.
Vancouver Island Time is brought to you by the Briar Hill Group at RE/MAX Camosun, Victoria, where we bring local expertise and global presence to your property.
Okay, and we're back with Lori Frank. So, Lori, tell us about Lori Frank Mediation.
Well, this was a career change for me last year. I'd already been working in the field of conflict resolution with families for a nonprofit. And so now I'm working in private practice. And I'm mainly working with parents who are separating and helping them establish their parenting plan, figuring out child support, separating their finances, all of those kinds of things that they need to figure out moving forward as co-parents. How is this going to look and what's going to be in the best interest of their kids?
So for the financials, do you hire somebody else to come in to do that, to kind of do a forensic analysis of what's going on with their money?
It depends. It depends on how complicated it is. If it's fairly straightforward, then it's up to them to figure out how they want to separate everything out. But we do sometimes need to bring someone in, especially if one of them maybe owns a small business or those kinds of things, then it's a little more complicated and we need that extra, a professional who knows money.
Right. So if they're self-employed, that's where, as opposed to being salaried and stuff like that, because self-employment can fluctuate over the year too, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so when you're trying to figure out things like child support, or if, for example, if one person is working in the small business, but the other person is maybe a partner in it, but doesn't work in it, how do they divide that? So, it can become quite complicated. But
What do you find for parent splitting? What's the biggest factor that causes a split? I noticed when we had young kids that there were a lot of people who, when their child's like 1 or 2, they're like, "That's it. I am so done with my partner," be it one way or the other. And often I think it's just a stress of no sleep, and you gotta sort of look and play the long game. Do you find people are a bit sometimes quick to cut the cord, or?
No, mostly I find that people have put some work into it, that it's something that's sort of been a long time coming. And on average, they find that for first marriages, people are actually not separating until about 14 years in. So not necessarily in that young child stage, more when their kids are starting to get a little bit older. But that maybe speaks to the fact that it is often a long time coming. It's been, brewing for a while. So things like finances or other kinds of stresses build up over time, and the relationship just can't sustain it.
Is there an age when it happens?
An age for the parents? In about early to mid 40s is what the stats show, and it's what I'm finding so far is it's around that age. Most people are getting married in their later 20s now, and so that would take them into their 40s if the 14 years is, the average.
I found also that for women, I don't know if it's the same for men, but if you've been staying at home with your children or supporting them, that you have a lot of time to reflect, and then you come to a point where you need to make a decision on what you're going to focus on. Mm-hmm. So sometimes that causes you to focus on your relationship as well. Do you find that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people, by the time you reach your 40s, you have come through those more stressful young child years, and you are starting to look more at yourself again. And what do you want for the next 20 years as your children are getting older and more independent? And so I think you're right. It is a time of reflection. I find for women in particular, a lot of women talk about, they feel like they really have come into their own in their 40s. And sometimes upon reflection, they're realizing this is not exactly what they were hoping for at this point in their life.
I found it happen every decade.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how at every age you feel like you know things and you've got it together, and then you look back, 10 years later and you're like, boy, I really didn't have it together then. So I imagine, I'm in my 40s now. I imagine in my 50s I'll look back at this and have that same feeling of knowing so much more.
So what would you say is one tip that you would give to people who maybe are going through a hard time and they want to keep it together? What's a tip that they can do to open up communications with their partner?
I think really being open with each other. I think often we assume the other person knows how we're feeling or what we're thinking or, oh, we have a visitor.
Yeah.
So not making those assumptions.
I see you.
Ginge, you can get down. Get down. Get down. Yeah, not making those assumptions that the other person is understanding where you're coming from. So sitting down and having those hard conversations, but in a way that's respectful of each other and just really listening to each other. We often, I think we think we're listening, but we're not. We're thinking about our own stuff while the other person's talking. So yeah, just sitting down, having those really honest and frank conversations will be really helpful.
So it's a good thing you have your name, Lori Frank. Was it hard to come up with the name?
Not at all.
So how is what you've been doing, what you were doing for the social services, or I can't remember.
A nonprofit.
A nonprofit, right. I always get that wrong. How does your work from there impact what you're doing now? So did you see this in the public school system, or did you see this in like social settings? What motivated you to choose this for your career?
Mm-hmm. Well, when I was working for the nonprofit, I was still working with families, and I was helping them to navigate different government systems and and schools and all of that in terms of having a child with a disability in the family. So when I was doing that work, I got to sit in on some mediations that some families were involved in as a support person. And I remember after the first mediation walking out and just going, wow, that is what I want to do. And from that day on, I found the coursework that I needed to do, and it took 2 years because I was working at the same time. But yeah, I just felt the process was so powerful because the people, it really allowed people to be in charge of the outcome, you know, as opposed to a judge or lawyers fighting over things. You know, a lot of that people feel like things end up out of their hands and out of their control. So I really appreciated the process was all about them and what do you want in the end.
What's the difference in cost for a mediator as compared to a lawyer?
It's a much less expensive process. For one, it's usually quicker, so you're not being billed for as much time. The actual fees are much less. For myself, I offer packages as well for parents who are separating, so that you know exactly what you're getting and you know exactly how much it's going to cost at the end. Whereas with lawyers, often the bill is a bit of a surprise at the end because you are being billed for everything that they're doing along the way, emails, phone calls, all of those things. So people kind of like that package in that everything, it's an all-inclusive package and they know exactly what they'll be paying at the end.
Is maybe this is a dumb question, but is the assumption when people come to you that they're going to break up or that they're just resolving a problem?
Usually they're coming to me when they have already separated. So they often one has already moved out of the house. So they are at a point where they know that this is going to be permanent. And so they're coming to me to figure out then how life will look after separation.
Do you help them make arrangements with the kids and do they ever need counseling?
It depends. I do recommend counselors at times, depending on what it is that they are working on. It depends on why they're separating and what has led to that. Sometimes counseling can be very beneficial for the kids after a separation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I find depending on what age the separation is happening, there'll be different effects on the kids.
Mm-hmm. It depends too on how amicable they have been leading up to the separation. If it's been more of a hostile environment in the house, then definitely counseling can be very beneficial for kids after.
One of the best courses I ever took when I was a teacher was basically just always considering the kids. The premise of the course was you always have to consider what's in the best interest of the children first. So often, sometimes kids are pawns in the relationship, but you need to separate that and just, treat your former partner like a human being, right?
Yeah, regardless whether you're going through mediation or working with a lawyer, the focus is always on what is the best interest of the kids. So all of the decisions that people are making need to be made in the best interest of the kids.
How do people get in touch with you?
I have a website, LoriFrankMediation.com, or you can email me, and that is Lori, Lori, at LoriFrankMediation.com. And yeah.
Can we follow you on social media?
Absolutely. So I'm on Facebook, and that's Lori Frank Mediation and Consulting on Facebook. And I've got a YouTube channel that I am currently developing, and going to be putting up some really great videos up there. I often get the same questions over and over. So we're going to do some frequently asked questions, do some Facebook Live around just conflict resolution tips in general. And then I'm going to be talking to some other professionals too about other things that people need to be considering when they're separating. So yeah, lots of fun stuff happening.
So if you have a question, maybe you want the answer to, you can contact Lori at LoriFrankMediation.com. And maybe you want to be on her Facebook Live show and talk about issues maybe that are common. I'm sure if you have a question, it's something that everybody else is thinking about too. That's the way I look at questions. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for having the time to spend with me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Jane. It's been nice having you over again.
Okay, if you want to be a guest on Vancouver Island Time, we have a link at vancouverislandtime.com. You can register to be a guest. You can sponsor our show as well. Lori is going to be a sponsor. And you will reach all of our listeners and anybody looking at real estate on Vancouver Island. We're going to be linking our listings to Vancouver Island Time podcast and also video. So for more information, go to vancouverislandtime.com. In the meantime, welcome to the neighborhood of the Highlands.
Welcome to the neighborhood. We hope you have had some insight into West Coast living. If you know of someone or someplace that should be highlighted in our podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Please go to vancouverislandtime.com and click on our Connect button. See you next week on Vancouver Island Time with Jane Johnston.